Hey students, today we are going to discuss an IXL skill, parallel sides in quadrilaterals. And the code of this skill is 6E9. Let's open an example and learn from here. For the skill, you have two key ideas. First thing, you should know the opposite and non-opposite sides, and the second thing, parallel and non-parallel lines. Okay, for this I will explain this concept in Geogebra. Okay, for example, if I draw a line like this, point here A and B, and the second line from here to here. If you look at these two lines, so they are not intersecting each other at all. They are not crossing or meeting each other like a railway track. So these two lines are known as parallel lines. You can see that if we can extend them infinitely, they do not even intersect each other. So they are known as parallel lines. And you can also identify parallel lines by measuring the distance between them. For example, if you look at the distance between these two lines at these 2 points, for example, the distance between A and point C, so it will same if you measure the distance at point B and point D. You can measure the distance at any point, so the distance will be same. That means the two lines are parallel to each other. But if we have a line something like this, if you draw a line, for example, if let me just draw two lines differently. For example, the line is something like this, and the second line we have is something like this. So now you can see that these two lines have different distances at different points. For example, if you measure the distance between these two lines from here, so the distance is 2. 1 and 2, and if you measure the distance between the two is only 1, right? And you can also see that if we extend these lines, you can see that they are meeting each other. So these sort of lines are known as not parallel lines. So I hope you have understood what are parallel lines. Now we will discuss what are opposite side of quadrilaterals. If we have a rectangle like this, so you can see that we have a two pair of sides in quadrilateral, because quadrilateral has 4 sides, so we can make two pair of them. So what will be the opposite side? For example, if you look at the line AD and the line BC, so you can see that these two lines are not sharing any vertex on this figure. They are not making any angle with each other in this figure. So that means these two lines are opposite to each other. Similarly, line AB and line DC are also opposite to each other, because they are not sharing any vertex with each other. They are not making any angle with each other. So they are opposite sides. And if you look at the side AB and side BC, so you can see that they are sharing this vertex at point B. That means these two lines are not opposite sides to each other. Okay, now you have understood what are opposite sides and what are parallel sides. Now let's go to an IXL and practice some skills. In this skill, you are supposed to find the number of pair of parallel lines, pair of parallel or opposite sides that are parallel to each other. First you have to look for which are opposite sides, and then you will identify which pairs and how many pairs are parallel. You may have no pair of parallel lines, you may have one pair of parallel line, and you may also have two pair of parallel lines. Let's see, and just to make it easier, I will plot this figure on Geogebra to show you the right answer. Okay, we have the same figure we have on IXL. We have drawn this figure in Geogebra. Now we can look for the opposite sides first. For example, the line AB and line DC or CD, do not sharing any vertex, that means they are opposite sides. So they are opposite sides, but are they parallel to each other? Well, if you look at the distance, so they have a same distance along, and they do not intersect with each other at the longest distance as well. So that means they are parallel sides, right? So they are parallel lines. So that means we have got one pair of parallel lines in this figure. Now look for the second pair of lines, opposite sides. The second pair is A and D, line A and line D, where we have line A and line D, and line B and line C. So you can share that they are also not sharing any vertex on this quadrilateral. Don't get confused that they are sharing a vertex here. They are crossing each other. No, you have to look for a vertex of this object, whether they are sharing any vertex or not. Since they are not, that means they are opposite to each other. Now you need to identify whether they are parallel or not. So just look for the distance. So you have a distance 1, 2, 3, 4 at this point between these two lines, and 1, 2, only 2 at this point. So that means the distance is changing from point to point. That means they are not parallel lines, and you can also see that they are also crossing each other at a point if we extend those lines. So that means they are not parallel lines. These two lines of this quadrilateral are parallel. So we have got one pair of parallel lines in this quadrilateral. So let's just give the answer. We have only one pair of parallel lines. These pair and these two are not parallel. Let's submit this answer. Great, that's right. Okay, now this figure looks quite complicated, but if we draw this on Geogebra, it will be a piece of cake for us. So let's do this. Okay, it is also a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides in it. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is a quadrilateral. Now let's look for some opposite sides of it. So side A and side D is opposite to side C and side B, right? So why these two are opposite to each other? Because they are not sharing any vertex. We have vertex A, vertex D, vertex C and vertex B, and we do not have any common vertex of these two lines. So that means these two are opposite to each other. Now we need to identify whether the two lines are parallel or not. So just look for the distance. So distance we have between these two lines is this at this point, and at this point we have very less distance. That means the distance is not same, and they are also intersecting each other at a point. If we extend this line and we also extend this line, so they are crossing each other. That means they are not parallel lines. Now let's look for the other pair of parallel lines of this quadrilateral. Let's do this. Okay, so the first pair will be line CD, and the second will be line AB. Again you can see that they are not sharing any vertex, right? So that means they are also opposite sides of this quadrilateral. But now check whether this pair is parallel or not. So again you can see that the distance is not same. Here we have a very less distance between the two lines, but we have a very large distance when we measure from here. And also they are meeting at point when they are extended. So that means they are not parallel lines. So it means in this figure we do not have any pair of parallel lines. So let's just give the answer on IXL. No parallel lines in it. Great. Okay, now look for this figure. This looks quite easy. Let's draw this on Geogebra and easily solve this as well. Okay, we have a similar quadrilateral on Geogebra. Now you can look for the opposite sides first. For example, side A and side A and B is opposite to side CD. because they are not sharing any vertex with each other. And you can see that, are you getting confused whether they are parallel or not? Don't be confused on this. Just look for the distance, whether it is same or not. If you look at the distance at this point, so it is 1 2 3 4 5 units, and if you look at the distance at this point, so it is also 1 2 3 4 and 5 units, and that this distance is same when you are extending these two lines either in this direction or in this direction. So the distance is same, that means they are parallel lines. And you can also extend it to infinity, and you can see that they are not crossing or meeting with each other, that means they are parallel lines. We have got a first pair of parallel lines of this figure. Now look for the second pair of opposite sides. Okay, so line A and D and line BC are two opposite sides of this quadrilateral because they are not sharing a vertex with each other. Now let's check whether they are parallel or not. You can easily identify the distance between the two lines is same at all the points of these lines, and when we extend in both the directions, so you can see they are not intersecting at all. So that means both pair of parallel lines are both pair of opposite side of this quadrilaterals are parallel. These two are also parallel to each other, and these two are also parallel to each other. That means we have got a two pair of parallel lines in this figure. So we have two pair of parallel lines in it. Woohoo! Okay, again we have a figure, but this look quite tricky. But you can easily do this if you use Geogebra applet as I am doing. So let's first plot it on Geogebra. Okay, we have drawn a similar quadrilateral on a Geogebra. Now let's check for the opposite sides. For example, side AB and side CD. You can see that they are opposite sides because they are not sharing a vertex, but they are not parallel lines. Why? Because they have a different distance at different points of this line. You can see that we have these lines are very far away as compared to the distance between the two from here, and they are also intersecting when they are expanded in this direction. So they are meeting, that means they are not parallel lines. Now let's look for the second pair of opposite sides. That's our line AD and line BC. And if you can look at this, so distance between the two lines is same, and they are not intersecting when they have been extended. So that means they are parallel lines. So we have got one pair of parallel line and the other pair is not parallel, right? They are intersecting. So that means we have only one pair of parallel line in this. So I hope you have easily understood this skill. Just go on IXL. The code of this skill is 6E9. Just quickly master it. And just you need to just observe the opposite sides and parallel lines.